This is a demonstration of style guide driven development for Drupal 8. Here you see the style guide that I've prepared earlier. This style guide currently contains two elements, and we're going to go through the process of adding a third. So right now we have the main menu for our site, and we have an accordion menu. And what we're going to add is the footer. So let's take a look at our directory structure and see how that's done. So here we have our project root, style guide in one directory, doc root, this is where Drupal lives, in a totally different directory. So generally speaking, the style guide directory will be the kind of walled garden where the front-end developers do their work, and then doc root will be where the back-end developers do their work. So index.html, that's this folder, and then each individual section of the page, the accordion menu and the main menu, each have their own component HTML file. So to add a footer, we're going to add a new component file. Okay, while the video was paused, I added my new footer component, so you can see it right here, footer.html. And if I refresh this page, we can see here's my new footer. And we can also take a look at the actual contents. So here is my footer. HTML and CSS all in one file. A lot of projects will find a way to have the CSS files shared between Drupal and the style guide. Just for expedience sake, I have not done that. So at this point in time, the front-end developer would be done. All I did was I constructed, as a front-end developer, constructed this one file. I wrote the plain HTML, and I wrote the CSS. And now I'm going to commit it in our code repository and send it over to the backend developers for integration with Drupal. Okay, so here's my custom Drupal site that I prepared earlier. And the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to create a new custom module. From here out, I'll be working mostly in PHP Storm, as most backend developers do. So here's the footer that was prepared for us earlier by the front-end team. Now, as a member of the back-end team, I want to integrate this plain HTML with my Drupal site. So I'll create a new custom module. And we'll call it the demo footer module. And let's go ahead and enable this module right now. Okay, the module is enabled. The next thing we're going to want to do is create a custom block. To create a custom block, we have to create a new block plugin. So that has to abide a particular directory structure. So first we'll create the src folder, then the plugin folder, then the block folder. And inside the block folder, we will create demo footer.php. And what we need to do inside demo footer.php is define a new custom class, demo footer, that extends the stock Drupal base class, which is called block base. And to start, we'll just make this custom block say hello world. I think I've done something wrong here. Ah, right. There we go. We've created our custom block. And let's clear our Drupal cache to get that to show up. Okay, Drupal cache is clear. And now let's go into our site and enable the block. Go to Structure, Block Layout. And we're going to put a block. Here it is, Demo Footer. This is the block we just created. We're going to put a block in our footer region. There we go. Save that. And now look at the home page. And there's the block that we just created, Hello World. As you can see, matching the Hello World that we just typed in our custom module. Of course, it's not enough to have a block that just says Hello World. So we're going to have to add a custom template to our block. So let's go ahead and do that. To do that, we're going to have to create a .module file. And the .module file will be used to call hook theme. Hook theme is how we let Drupal know that there are new template files available. We will also have to create a new template file that matches the value we supplied here on line 7. So our template file needs to be named that same thing. And yes, it must go in the templates directory. Okay, and let's get the plain HTML version that our front-end team supplied. Here it is, and we just want to extract the relevant bits. So we don't need this header, and we don't need these ending HTML tags. We just need the footer. So let's capture that. And let's put this HTML in our newly created Drupal template file. And we'll clear cache again. Okay, cache is cleared. And let's come back to our demo site and take a look at our new footer. Oh, I made a mistake. I also have to update the block definition. This tells the block which template file we want to use. Okay, and we're going to need to clear cache one more time. Okay, cache is cleared. And now let's refresh the page. Okay, great. Now we can see the HTML is showing up. Of course, the next step, we're going to want to add some CSS to make this block actually look the way it looked in the style guide. To add CSS, we're going to have to define a library. So we're going to create a file called demofooter.libraries.yaml. And we're going to give the path to our CSS file. footer.css. We will also create a new CSS file in the location defined by our libraries file. And finally, we want to capture the CSS that our front-end team supplied. Oops. Capture that CSS and put it in our newly created footer.css file. Lastly, we need to tell Drupal to attach that library to the block that we just created. Okay, to get the appropriate library loaded, we're going to use the attached directive in our block class. Obviously, I've copied and pasted that. So here we're just giving the name of the library that we just defined. So we defined a library in the demo footer module. We called the library footer, hence library demo footer / footer. Now we'll just clear Drupal cache one more time. Okay, the cache is cleared, and we'll come back here and we should see our nicely themed footer. Okay, great. Footer's looking nice now, but you can see I've actually made a couple of mistakes. So the first is that none of these icons are working, and the second is that this this font is actually, if you compare it, it's a different font than the one that was used in the style guide. Also, none of these links work, so we're going to need to wire these links up to the Drupal backend. So let's start with the problem with the fonts. Let's see what's the problem here. We're going to want to inspect and here's the problem. The style guide used the Font Awesome library, which we haven't loaded here in our actual Drupal site. So let's go ahead and get that loaded. So there's three things we're going to need to do in order to get our icons working. The first is we're going to need to create another libraries file. This time we're going to do this at the theme level. And the reason we're going to do it at the theme level is that we want these icons to be available on every page, even if for some reason that page didn't use the footer. And in this new libraries file in our custom theme, we're going to add two files. We're going to add a general CSS file. We don't have anything to put there just yet. We're also going to add a file which will load the Font Awesome icon library. So the last step here is we just need to add the Font Awesome icon library to our theme, to our Drupal theme. I've downloaded this while the screen recording was paused, so let's just drop this in here. And I actually spoke too soon. It's not the last step. There's one more step. Now that we've defined our library and put the contents of our library inside of our theme, we need to turn the library on in our theme info file. So now let's clear Drupal cache and let's see if our icons work. All right, Drupal cache is cleared. And here are our working icons. Looks great. Okay, so there's just a couple more steps before we can call this truly done. The first is these menu links. They don't really go anywhere, so we have to wire these menu links up to the back end. So let's get that done. Okay, so while the recording was paused, I created a new Drupal menu of all the links that I want to put in my footer, so about, blog, home, pricing, and so on. And these will become these links right here. Now that I've created my Drupal menu so that it can be edited in the UI, the next step is to wire this Drupal menu up to the template file that we created earlier. So this next bit of code is just a little bit too complicated to write in real time in front of you, so I've prepared it while the screen recording was paused, and I'll just demo it for you right now. So when I paused the screen recording, we had each of these links was just hard-coded, plain HTML as it was delivered to us in the style guide. And what we want to do is integrate these with the Drupal menu. So it's pretty easy to do. I'm not going to explain this code in too much detail, but in general what we're doing is we're loading up the Drupal menu that we created here. We're passing it into our template file. We're giving it a name to be used in the template file. The name will be links. And then in the template file, we're going to iterate over each of the links and print them out. Now let's eliminate. Let's eliminate the hard-coded version. And there we go. You can see each of my links goes to google.com, and you can see as I mouse over them, that's what I have, except for the contact link, which goes to the Drupal contact page. The last piece of the puzzle would be to export this configuration to our custom module. That's a little complicated as well, and it's a bit beyond the scope of what this video was attempting to demonstrate, so I'll leave it out. So this has been creating a custom footer with style guide driven development.